Exploiting intellectual property. In your business, you are constantly seeking to improve the business bottom line. Earnings are king, and you focus on your existing business and look at how you can grow via marketing to secure higher market share, increase your profit margin through having a desirable brand, reduction of costs, which typically is the form of growth model used. Another way is to look at new business, typically by bringing in new forms of revenue streams. So how can you seek to do that with your intellectual property? Well, you can look at your existing business and use your brand to expand its worth. Similarly, you can look at your intellectual property and seek to license it to others and leverage off their use of your intellectual property to increase your revenue without necessarily incurring additional costs. And what we're talking about in this context is the commercialization of your intellectual property. Leasing a legal protected property to others, you become the licensor. The person to whom you lease or license the right to is the licensee, and there are terms, conditions, and payments that you are to receive. Licensing intellectual property is a cost-efficient brand extension which will increase customer awareness of your primary brand, thereby allowing you to increase your revenue through the expansion and use of other people using it. There's legal and marketing issues to consider, and there's the way you package your commercial IP that's being offered. Art, celebrities, corporate trademarks, entertainment and character merchandising, through fashion, through music, non-profit, publishing, sports, technology, toys, computer games. They are very broad categories of use. Now, intellectual property licensing can go back to 1903. One of the first examples is the licensing of Peter Rabbit, created by Beatrix Potter as a toy. There were Charlie Chaplin dolls in 1910. Then Mickey Mouse stationery was first licensed in 1928. Comic strips and films grew from the 1940s, and we've now seen the expansion of the Marvel world and DC Comics franchises from comics into the films, and then of course all of the ancillary licensing through pajamas and registered designs, games through computers, storyboards and toys. Then there's the licensing of Pierre Cardin, Givenchy, Valentino, Louis Vuitton through the 50s. Fred Flintstone and other TV commercials in the 60s. And then of course we have football, soccer, Beatles in the 1960s. And one of the great successes was Star Wars. In 1977, when it was first released, the licensing rights in itself earned US $2.5 billion. Licensing has grown rapidly and is an exceedingly good way of leveraging your IP through franchising, joint ventures and strategic alliances. So, to give you some practical examples, Disney stores in the late 2000s, 2010, earned $1 billion in sales through their real estate, staff, inventory. Disney's revenue from licensing its products, Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Star Wars, the Invincibles and the like, $20 billion US in sales. So as you can see, there's a great leverage uplift from using and licensing intellectual property. Now, Harley-Davidson do this. Coca-Cola do it. Harley-Davidson are known for their motorcycles. However, they have a clothing range. Belts, ties, bracelets, shoes, leather goods. So it's very important to consider whether your business allows itself to be licensed. But if you're going to look at licensing, you need to take the time to make sure that you own the IP first, that you've protected it fully to ensure that you can exploit it. Because there'd be nothing worse in giving the world a fabulous idea that you spent years, time, blood, sweat and tears on, only to find that other people go off and run with it. So confirm what IP you have in your business. Undertake an IP audit so that you know what you've got. Many people have businesses and they have fabulous ideas which they've reduced to writing and copyright. But they don't necessarily keep that information confidential, thereby allowing their employees to potentially run off with it. So having this audit is good for you. Work out who your customers are. Understand what your customers perceive as your trademark. Is there any particular brand of recognition through sight, shape, sound or smell, or any combination of those that need protecting? Why do customers love your goods or services? Is there some registered design, some patent that you need protecting? And how can you better improve the protection of that intellectual property? So, in first ascertaining what your IP is, you can then move to the next step of determining how you can package your IT to leverage it moving forward. What licensing form of contract, what legal documentation do you need to proceed with that form of leveraging? Consider the branding positioning that you have. What's the purpose of the brand that you're trying to use? What information do consumers need? Identify the elements of your brand, symbols, colours, graphics. Is there any particular trade dress that you need to have? Are there packaging guidelines and retail presentation? Are there advertising and media regulations you've got to look at? Many companies, Elle has a merchandising brand manual. And it's important to ensure that if you're licensing and using Elle merchandise, that you adhere to that brand manual. There are brand manuals from, of course, Disney and many other organisations. So it's important that you have those. The benefits of licensing is that you might be able to export your ideas overseas without any cost. Someone can come to you and say, what a fabulous idea this is. Can I use it? And the answer is, of course you can, provided you pay me. And you therefore can work out an appropriate licensing arrangement whereby you can grow your business, grow your revenue by someone else spending the time and money to use it overseas. And you can do this through partnerships, joint ventures, or just straight out licensing. Their marketing will allow you to have greater perception throughout the world, which will of course allow you to potentially license the mark in other countries and other parts of the world.